Hi everyone, it's Judy here again, River City Sewing, bringing you a new unboxing video of a fabulous new machine from PFAFF. It's the Creative Expression 750. We received this one this week and now I'm here at the shop. Shop's closed on a Sunday and I'm here to unbox this beautiful new machine so I can get a little bit of a playtime on it and show you exactly what comes in the box with the Creative Expression 750. As you can see, it's well marked on the outside. We've got the embroidery module here, we've got the machine in this one. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to unbox the embroidery module just to take that out, and then I'm going to unbox the machine head itself. That way you get a bit of an idea of what's happening. So if you see the back of me for a minute, don't stress, we'll get that sorted out. Now the boxing's got some really nice styling on it with the little dots everywhere, and it's brand new, so we've got lots of tape. So just bear with me as I go through. This 750 is still in the J series of machines. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. So let me just take this one out. I'm doing the embroidery module first, simply because it's already sort of unpacked, if you know what I mean, and I'll give you an idea of what this looks like. So there's all your packing pieces. I'm just going to pop the box away. That way I don't make a mess. All right, so let's pop that back up there. Okay, so the module it's already packed. So literally that's why I've undone it first. The styling is a little bit darker grey than what we've seen. Still has the beautiful embroidered front pockets to put extra things in. Inside this unit here, we have your 260 by 200 hoop. Okay, so that's your largest hoop for this one. And in here, oh sorry, that's not right. The 260 by 200 is an extra hoop. 360 by 200, and you have the, I'm just checking if there's, yes we do, and it's just dropped down. I'm going to lay this down, but there's another hoop underneath there. So let's just, I do it this way so you can see. Sorry about the noise, we've got Velcro. Okay, so always when we unbox the embroidery module, we know we've got this red travel clip that's underneath. We can't use the machine until that's removed. All right, so I'm going to take that off a little bit later before we use the machine. Now, please do not throw out this part, okay, because it's good for packing in and keeping everything together all the time. Okay, so we have the 120 by 120 hoop. Okay, so there's your smaller 120 by 120. We have the 360 by 200 and the 260 by 200. So you got everything you need there just to get started. I'm just going to pop those in there. You've got a carry strap as well as these little great things which are your hoop clips. All right, so there's little sections on the hoop where you can put these clips to hold your fabric in. There's 16 of them in here, so don't lose those, okay? So I'm just going to close that up. I'm going to leave the module actually out of the box, out of the storage. And just make sure I don't trip over my microphone. Oops, let me do one thing first. Just going to pop that foam back in there so we're all nice and tidy. All right, so now we have the module. It has had some changes, but some styling changes. We've got the PFAFF logo here. I am going to remove that clip. So how we remove the clip is to push in and pull up. And we're going to hold on to that clip and put it back a little bit later on. If you're traveling, it holds that embroidery arm in place so that it doesn't move around. So this locking clip is really important if you're going to travel with your machine, in and out of the car, those kinds of things, but just remember to remove it before we use it. So it's going to sit right there. So that's your included elements with the embroidery module. So now I'm just going to make sure I don't pull this camera off the bench. I'm going to pull this one forward and we're going to take the machine out. And as I pull stuff out, I'm going to go through and talk you through some of these accessories and things like that. Okay, so as she's brand new, there's tapes on this box, so we're just going to make sure we don't miss any of them, otherwise we won't be able to get it out of the box. There we go. All right, so still again matching styling on the outer carton, and inside the first thing we have is the top tray. Now the first thing you'll notice as I pull this packaging out, this is no longer foam. It's cardboard, the packaging and the protective elements. So big change. A lot of the industry is going away from styrofoam packaging where possible, and they'll be cutting down due to some requirements in the different states. Even Western Australia have the really high requirements about styrofoam. So this is the new, how it will come. So it's a little bit different. The first thing we see is the matching dust cover. There is no more hard covers. This is a soft, really lovely dust cover, so when your machine is on your bench at home, this will go over the machine head. Okay, it's the same grey colour as to match your embroidery module cover. Also in here we have, obviously, foot control. It's one of the retractor type ones, so it neatly tucks away. So large foot control, that's standard. So the other one we're looking at in here, I'm just going to pop that back in. We have an Australian plug end in here. That'll be a little bit more apparent as we go through opening all of the different elements, because the power cords and transformers have changed for this particular machine. And this is now like a data cable point. Okay, so we can, it's not longer just a regular plug-in adapter type, it's this style. And here, I'm going to work out how to pop him in. Oh, I know how to pop him in. Okay, so this is your transformer. This is the end, and this is where this guy goes. So he would then slide in like that. So now we have, this is your power, a bit like some of our electronic equipment have this little power. This is different, and this end goes into your machine. That's into the power board, this end to your machine. Okay, so we'll go through that a little bit different. That's real different change, and we'll see probably a lot more of that come through with some of these new machines. So this is now your power cord. All right, so we're going to need that one. All right, so we have a knee lift. For all of you who like your knee lift, some of you who never used your knee lift, this one is for doing that, and we're going to go through how to use that as well. We also have accessories, we're going to go through those. We have an information about firmware update using Wi-Fi. We're going to go through all of that and do everything like they say. For everyone watching this, we are We are based in Australia, so we have an Australian warranty card. Your card may look a little bit different if you're watching from other parts of the world. And there's your user's guide as well. All right, so we're going to have a look at all of those things. So I'm just going to pop them over here out of our line of sight right now. And I'm trying to be very methodical about how to open this up, because this is the first time I've actually got one of these new packaging systems out of the box. So if it looks a bit awkward, it's just us learning as well. Okay, so in here there's lots of packaging to make it secure for the machine to not move around. Okay, so it's quite heavy, the packaging itself, because it's all cardboard and it's all structured and reinforced so that that machine does not move at all during transit. This is all empty. There are no hidden compartments in here. There are no elements in there that are packed inside, that so far that I've seen. I'm just going to pop that down on the ground. And then inside here we have our new baby. Hello, how'd you come? And inside the box again, we have still more reinforced cardboard packaging there. Here we have machine. She's got lots of tapes on securing everything. So we're going to go through pretty methodically and taking off all the tapes and making sure that everything has been removed. Now I'm just going to go through from the top down. So they put a lot of these tapes on so that nothing moves in the box. Hopefully we will be able to remove this type of tape that they tend to put on. Is quite firm, but it should remove without any sticky residue. It's really heavy duty tape and we want to make sure that's the case. And when you are taking tape off, just hold, like this lid, you just got to hold it down and just pull gently. Don't pull at it too quickly. Just go nice and slow so that you're not pulling things the wrong way or damaging anything. We're just going to go super slow. Just a little little pieces at a time, just making sure everything is good. So there's the ones from the top, nice and neat. Now we've got some smaller tapes here on the front. Don't know whether having nails is an advantage in this or not. So this one, just be careful. This one here, it covers up the needle threader and the needle position, so just be really gentle when you remove that one. And it goes all the way to the back of the machine, so just watch that long thin tape there that goes down here, because it's right in front of your needle threader, right on the top of it. Now these gels that they put in here in the little bags, like you get in your shoe boxes, they take up any moisture, and we don't want moisture happening when we've got electronic equipment. So that's why they put them in. Please, like they say, this is environmentally friendly desiccant. So if you want to recycle that by putting it into you can reuse this, put it in one of your shoe cupboards or your sewing cupboard or whatever. So don't throw that away. That can be recycled just as it is there. Just pop it in and it'll help keep any moisture out of, or humidity out of different things that you have in your stash. So the next one, as we work our way down, we've got a red clip. So this red clip is there to hold the, help keep the head of the machine nice and straight while we're in transit. So it sits just around the needle bar here. So we're going to basically pull it directly out to the right, and then that'll remove, and you can see that's what it's done. It sits there, and this sits around where the needle goes up and down, And that clip, you can hold on to that as well, because if you are doing lots of movement with your machine, this will help support the whole machine, you know, when it's in a car or it's in transit, all right? So it's a good thing to keep. Keeps your machine healthy when you're moving it around. So this one is from the factory, that it's been gone through its quality control procedures and checks, and it was done by a technician, in this case inspector number 10. So thank you for looking at that machine, so you can keep that with all your information. So again, we're just working from the top down. So here we're just getting one off the stitch plate. It's holding your bobbin cover in, so as you remove that sticker or this piece of tape, just support everything, because it's quite tough, this tape. Okay, so now I should be able to remove the accessory tray, and there's no more tapes that I can see here on the back. I'll check on the side in a second. But you can see some of the styling here, that is this gold, deep burnished brown, which is almost like a deep gold, like a really deep rose gold. It's really nice with against the dark. This is like it's not quite black, but it's more a dark brown. It's just quite lovely. It's got a piano finish, which is really nice. So very well styled. So let's get the rest of these tapes off before we start, because there'll be different places to put all your accessories and stuff inside. Now, some of them can be a little bit, if you've got nails like I have that are too long right now, this might be a little bit problematic, but let's just try. Okay, like we said, this one, just make sure you're holding down this cover and just gently peel it back, and just a couple of centimeters at a time. And that ensures you don't move anything where it shouldn't go. All right. So we can see on the front of this cover that we've got now starting to see some of the measures. This one's a little stainless steel embedded measuring tape. That's there. It's good now, because with the metal piece, we can really see the numbers rather than just be plastic. Same. There we go. So I always find that now with these metal measures, you can really see the numbers a little bit better, and you can see all the way along. It's not just little impressions into the plastic. We've got lots of fun measurements here all the way along, which is really good. Okay, it looks like our last tape here is on the back of the accessory tray, and we're just going to try and grab that off. It will come. We're going to try the other one. This is the fun bit of, it's a bit like when anything new, it's got tapes on to stop things moving around. I think it's a really enjoyable part of the experience of opening up your new machine. In this particular one here, because this is a little lid that opens, be really careful. Just make sure that you're holding that down and just pulling gently as you take that tape off. These tapes are really secure and really quite stiff, which is great because it protects your machine, but you just want to make sure that you're not moving those covers or pulling up without holding those covers there. So that's the last of the tape. Yeah, that's really tough tape, that one. But it's great because it means that your machine has been well protected from the factory to now. So when you open up that accessory tray, you have a place in the back here for storage. Usually your buttonhole foot and everything fits really nice in the back. You have a space to put in here is a space to put a stitch plate. Excuse me. this little section here is to hold it, and I'll show you that as we get closer. And here we've got a removable tray that inside here is you can put your feet and some bobbins in. Now, some machines have this tray in, some machines don't have that tray, but in this particular case, yes, it's there. So we're going to slide that whole section back on to the machine. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to plug it in and turn it on. I'm just going to go through a little bit of the screen first, and then we'll go and show you some of the features of sewing, and then some of the features of embroidery. So let me get set up here, and then we'll come across and we'll move cameras and get close up to that screen so you can have a look at where everything is. All right, I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so we're going to go through the process of actually plugging this in so we can see. I've just moved the machine over slightly, and we might have some camera angle changes as we go through, but we'll see how we go. So, all right, so we've got about 1.5 meters distance between the power source and the power running into the machine, okay? So if you haven't got or haven't changed your power surge protectors and things for a couple of years, I would suggest that you get yourself a really good surge protector. We use Thor power boards here at the store. They're fantastic boards. They come in all different sizes, and if you want to protect your machine with a really good quality power surge protector, then why not investigate Thor? They're really great. So I'm just going to plug that in, and I'm going to go on the other side. Just got to watch my camera angles here. So this end, I'll get you up close. This end goes into the machine with the flat top up, okay? And it goes in this side. Oops. The hand wheel end, and you'll see it right here on the side, and just plugs in. Okay, on the end, I haven't got a picture, but there's a USB port, a speed slider, and obviously your hand wheels here, and right in front is your switch to turn it on. I'm not going to turn it on just yet though. I am going to put the module on so that I don't have to change again between sewing and embroidery. So I'm just going to remove this one, and as you saw, I took that red clip out, and I'm going to pop on the embroidery module. Okay. Now you want to make sure that when you pop that embroidery module on, like any other embroidery modules, you want this to be on a very flat surface. You know, if you have two tables joined together, I would suggest that you try to get a tabletop or something to put on so they're all on the same level, all right, because you want that connection to be lovely. I'm going to pop that little knee lift over there. All right, so we're just going to make sure that we have clearance for the embroidery module to calibrate. So if at least now I've got, pop that over there. At least now I've got everything connected so that we can start showing you through the process of this. Okay, so let's have a look at a little bit of anatomy first before we switch on. Let's have a look. You can see now here we've got a really big screen. This whole area is now, we've got the large screen. We have piano finish glossy front. It's almost like a charcoal color, this machine, and it has a styling that goes all the way up to the long handle that goes from left to right on the machine. That gives it a bit of great stability when you're trying to carry it. The piano finish is really nice, and these buttons are inset, so they're little squares that they're inset into the front, and it's the same down here. We have our port for our foot control here. The stitch plate is a new type with the holes, and this is our needle threader. So this is a different setup from the older style. It's a much easier way for you to thread your needles, and we'll get to that when the machine turns on, but pretty much we have J bobbins in this machine, like we said, and it's the slide off covers still. So those of you who've had PFAFFs in the past, we still have the little magnifying glass that's in there that you can see if you need to get a little bit closer to something. So it's all sitting there on the front. And in the styling at the top, like we just had a sneak peek of earlier, it's with this burnished sort of gold background with the black trims. All these are all your menus that give you little symbols of what's inside the menus. So in this one, we can see that we have quite a few utility stitches, quite a few quilting style stitches, heirloom, satins. We have some decoratives in here and some maxis. We have some beautiful little sequin style stitches, which is great. We have some monogramming with my favorite, which is like Harry Potter lettering. I know it looks like that sort of cursive style, but that is in the sewing mode. So if you want to just do a couple of letters on something that you know, you've made, whether it's, you know, you've made some little napery or something like that, and you just want to put an initial or some numbers or something on, then these are great. You don't have to hoop it. It's like maxi stitch lettering, and you've got two types there. In here you've got some decorative stitch features like the ribbon. You've got lots of different things. We're going to explore that even further. Radiant stitches and the over edge lace stitches in this machine as well, and you've got quite a few others in your specialty stitches. But we've also got regular sewing fonts here, and some are quite different, so that's really cool. And your button measure up here on the end. Okay, so that's all in your front cover. Now, this machine does have a little bit of artificial intelligence. Not that it's going to sew for you, but it will recognize a few different things. So as we go through, we're going to show you a couple of those features too. All right, so now that we've seen a little bit of the anatomy of the outside, let's go and have a look at what happens when we turn it on. So the first time, let's turn it on, and immediately we see heaps big lots of lights straight away, lots of lighting over that needle area. The computer or the electronics in here that run the screen are going to take a little bit longer to fire up because there's a few things I need to turn on. And you'll see everything's calibrating, so all those movements, all those little motors are making sure that everything is in the right spot. Okay, so one of the things that we saw when we opened up this machine was one of the little information sections about firmware update using Wi-Fi. Now, most of us have Wi-Fi at home now. So when you get this out of the box, and we won't be doing it right now, but when we've gone through a lot of those things, I'll be updating the machine, putting it on Wi-Fi and doing the updates, because you want everything to be great as soon as you start. Now, the beauty of this machine having Wi-Fi built in to it is that all you need to do is connect on to your home Wi-Fi or wherever your machine's sitting, and it connects so that it looks for the latest update. So you don't have to go onto a website or anything like that. It's going to look for it straight away. Okay, so that's an important one. We're going to do that, but not until we've gone through everything else here. So it has a welcome screen, and it steps. We're going to go through the steps because this is the first time I've seen it, so we're going to go through together. It says, welcome, go through the following steps to easily set up your machine. Learn some helpful tips and tricks along the way. Okay, let's do that. So we're going to go through, and we're going to press the little button to go with the arrow, and it asks us to select our language. Now, if English is not your first language, there are quite a few different languages in here that you can set your machine up so that you know exactly, everything will be then translated into the language of your choice. That's really nice. So if you, so go through with already pre-populated to English, but you may want to go through and pick the one that you like. And once you've selected it, you'll see the little tick, and we touch the arrow again. The next thing, it's going to ask me to connect to the Wi-Fi, which I'll do. Now, I'm going to connect it to my Wi-Fi. Now I've got to remember my password. So I'm just going to recap for a second because I just had to turn the camera off for a sec. So when we get into this area here where it connect to Creative8, so we're going to put our email address in that we've registered, our Creative8 account, and your password. If you haven't done that, we suggest that you go and do that. You can either scan this QR code that's right here on the front with your phone, and that'll take you directly to there so that you can register. If you've previously registered for MySonet or one of those, you may need to register again, but you may not. So if you've forgotten your password or whatever, just if you can't get in, just create a new one. It'll tell you if you've got an account there or not. Okay, so once you've got that once you've been verified your password and done all those things like we normally have to do, you can then enter that details here and just press sign in. It's best if you can do this, like I said, at the beginning, because everything then turns on correctly, everything then is working as it should do. So between Wi-Fi, it'll go up now and check to make sure that it sees you, that it sees the machine. Everything is going through fine, provided that you have the right password in and everything. It just takes a little bit to get moving. It is case sensitive, these passwords, so just make sure that you've got all of your... Okay, so I've got you a little bit closer and we're up to the point of putting the Creative8 system on the machine. So I'm sorry if it's a little bit glary, but we'll do our best. Once we get past this stage, you might be able to see this screen a little bit better. So here we are. I've put in my Creative8 email address. There's my password, which, you know, you've all got different passwords. And then once that's in, basically you can press sign in, okay? And that'll sign you in to your Creative8 account up in the cloud. So if you don't have one, then you can basically set up a new one using that QR code we saw before, okay? So here it says, hello, Judi Cogliati, sales at River City Sewing. When signing out from Creative8, the files in the Creative8 folder on the machine will be removed. So what that means is if I sign out on this machine, no one can see my files that I've got in my Creative8 account. Now my Creative8 account is full of stuff, all right, from all different machines and all different projects. So, you know, I can see it on this machine. No matter what machine I can that connects to Creative8, I can see that. So this is why it's important that you sign in. You can, once you're signed in, the next time you come to the machine, it'll sign you in again. All right. So, but just keep your password handy just in case. So here we are, and we've got the next arrow takes us to here. So I put my name comes in. The machine name, you can give it a name, but I'm just leaving it as Creative Expression 750. You can give it a name, whatever name you like, so that way you can personalize your machine. So we're pretty boring. We're just going to leave it as Creative Expression 750. And then you can choose your own color scheme. So I'm just going to try this color scheme so we can see the screen a little bit better. But you can have it dark, you can have it light. But I think for this purpose, I'm going to keep it fairly light. And then you can come back and change that later if you want. This is the laser and the camera. Okay, so this is fine tuning the camera and fine tuning the laser. So if we go in and we're going to have a look, and it tells us how to fine tune it. So we may as well try while we're here. So make sure there are no objects covering the stitch plate, so there's nothing there. And touch automatic fine tuning to take a photo of the stitch plate and automatically position the fine tuning lines. So we're going to do that. Verify that the lines align with the edges of the stitch plate. See the illustration below. So those lines are aligning with the edge of the stitch plate. And to me, it looks pretty good. All right. So if it was out, then we would go back to, if the lines in the photo don't align as described, adjust the corners one by one. Touch one of the corner icons. So let's go and have a look here. Say this one was out. I could touch the corner icon here, and it would then give me the little arrows to move it in or out. But I think it's fairly well aligned there, so I'm just going to cancel that. So I'm going to do that again, auto fine tune, and then I'm going to go up, and I'm checking to make sure that the edges all match up, and I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so if everything's good, you just press cancel. Fine tuning the laser. So you can see the lights have dropped. And we're going to look and see if it's in the center position. So there's a little line that it looks like it's all in the center, and you can fine tune it plus or minus. All right, so, but it looks like everything's in the middle. Sometimes after you've used your machine for a little bit, then you know, that laser, you might think it needs an adjustment, and that's how we do it. Then we would go next. You can forget about that if you don't want to do that straight away. Here we then go into the user guide. So find information about how to operate your machine is in the user guide. So this next one talks about Creative 8 and how you can look at the blog and look at your account. So it gives you a little bit of information there. Instant answers using quick help, which is the question mark. It explains a little bit of that there. The last one is gestures. So on the screen, so a double tap is like when you want to load a stitch, or a long press is like when you want to use your bin button and you want to delete everything. You can tap, you can scale, you can move side to side. It's pretty cool, right? So a bit like a normal tablet. So here we are at the home screen. So because we've got both sewing and embroidery here, this is our sewing side, this is our embroidery side. We can go into Creative 8 here, we can go into the user guide here, or the Learning Centre. Learning Centre is a great spot to find out a little bit more about your machine. So what I'm going to go and do here is just have a quick look at the Learning Centre, and it gives you some of the fun things that you can learn about your machine. So there's Sewing Learning Centre. It talks about what techniques you want to do. If you want to use some dressmaking techniques, if you want to do some hems, it's going to give you a lot of this information here. Okay, so little techniques, great, like having a sewing teacher right here in your machine. The exclusive sewing techniques, if you want to explore some of these ribbon stitches and things like that, if I want to explore those, not only does it give me an explanation of how to do that, you can start the tutorial, and it's going to just move that embroidery module out of the way. Okay, this is a sewing stitch. It's just, I'm highlighting that because we're in sewing right now. Single ribbon stitches, and it goes through step by step, all the things that you need, and there is a little video involved inside. So these stitches, you may not think, oh geez, I don't know how to do them. Well, there's help here inside. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole lot, but you can see the video gets broken about halfway. All you need to do is, when this is finished, you press the cross, go on to your next section, let it do what it does, then go into the second section of that video, press play, and then it'll tell you what's next. All right, so you can step your way through these tutorials. They're quite fun. What it also does is, let me go back to Learning Centre. Let's go back to where we were. Going to exclusive ribbon stitch. Not only does it give you the tutorial, but it gives you the stitch to try. Okay, this is a single ribbon stitch. So when it tells you to load the stitch, you've got the content in there as well, which is quite fun. Sewing projects, there is some little projects in there that you can get started with the machine. So they come with a list of instructions of what you've got to do, and I'll let you explore those once you've taken your machine home. There's fashion and home decorator, so there's a few others in there as well. Okay, so Learning Centre is a great thing. You've got some embroidery. Your embroideries are basically going to be broken up into different types of embroidery designs. So standard embroidery, if we touch that, basically it sorts the design. For the tutorial, it's going to go through and tell you what you're going to be doing, as well as having a video telling you what's happening. So that's pretty cool. Applique, it's going to give you the different types of applique, give you some content there as well, how to do different things, and go through some of the others. Quilting and patchwork, same thing. Freestanding lace and lace designs and pop-up lace, they're all here. Cut work embroidery, it's going to give you a few examples. Yarns, surface embroidery, thread velvet. So lots of things for you to discover in here, okay? Lots of tutorials that you can work your way through like you have a workbook to make sure that you get the most out of your machine, okay? So we use these little arrows to get back to where we were. The user guide is like having your manual on the machine. So if you don't want to leave your manual, you don't like getting into the manual, there is one here. You can sort them by the topics in the manual, so 1 through to 15. So if you were just wanting to know what your home screen was all about, here is a little bit of a tutorial about it. But anything you want to see that would be in your manual, you can also search here for, say, I don't know, let's do embroidery, search, and it will give me different topics that I can then select which one I am looking for under the word embroidery. There's 62 results here. So it's a little bit like when you're on your computer at home and you're trying to Google something. Well, this is like Googling inside the machine for what you need in your manual, which is pretty cool. So if you're not quite sure, at least you've got a few places to start with those, that search function. So, or you can go A to Z. So it starts with numbers, and if you're looking at embroidery, you might want to go E, and then you go embroidery edit, embroidery, and it goes through those things. So there's quite a few different ways for you to actually find the stuff that you're looking for, okay? So a Creative 8, now that I'm logged in, Creative 8 will give you, obviously there's nothing there right now, but if I went into my Creative 8, my account, if I had something here, this is basically where I could log in, but I'm going to show you how to get stuff out of Creative 8 a little bit later. So let's do some sewing first. So in the sewing side, once we hit sewing, we get to your sew screen, and everything you'll see down here, there's a couple of little symbols here, but everything down here has got words attached to it. So tie off, sequence creator, stitch creator, everything has got words so that you can understand what that function is. On the side up here, we have the laser. So you can turn your laser on or turn it off. You can move the laser to a position. So you want a 1/4 inch. I can move that laser position to be a 1/4 inch from the center. I can make the brightness a lot brighter. So I've just got a piece of fabric here, so you can see. So you can see if I move the position, it lets me move it all the way that way, or all the way the other way. Okay, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it allows me to do that. Now I'm going to go into my settings. I'm just going to basically look at my lighting right now. Just got to find where menu I need to be in. Okay, so down the bottom here of display and audio, for this purpose of this exercise, I'm going to drop my lights. You can see how lovely that is to be able to drop the lights. So hopefully now you might be able to see my laser. If you can't, well, unfortunately, that's the laser's coming down to give me a guideline. So hopefully you'll be able to see that. Go back into sewing. So here, I've got lots of positions where I can put the laser. I've got about 60 different positions, 30 on this side, 30 on the other side. So it's quite magical really that I can get a laser guideline all the way out here and all the way on the left, which is really great. So LED work light, I could have changed it from here because I didn't read the screen. So if I need to make my light really light, I can just push it all the way to the minimum. I've still got light, and even the light that it's got is better than some on the lowest setting is like what some machines have that as their normal setting, which is really good. So I can turn my laser off if I don't want all that, but I can still have room. This is where I can adjust my lighting for my sewing. Okay, so same one. Sewing setting, if you want to select your stitches, this little symbols here at the top, this is where we select our stitches. These are all your menu numbers, so these correlate to what's up here at the top. Each big menu is like a tab in a folder. So that's tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, tab 4, and they've all got names here at the top, and you can scroll through them. If I was looking for my great monogrammed Harry Potter type lettering, okay, there is monograms and there is my A. Okay, and then to move this screen out, I just touch it again and I can see what's on the screen. Okay, now this is the fun thing. This is the machine that's got AI included in such a small machine, is that it's seeing what foot I have on, and it's got red here because it said, we recommend that you have the number 8 foot on, but the machine's seeing the OA foot, so it says you got the wrong foot on. Okay, so it gives you some warnings here. So that's what AI is doing right now. It's looking at it and checking out what you've put on the machine to guide you and say if something's wrong. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's go back and we will go back into our basic sewing. So you can see that's disappeared because I've got the right foot on now. OA is my foot guide to say here, when the engineers have put all this together, they said to stitch this stitch, you're best to put your OA foot on. This one here with the foot on the mountains, it says that is your dual feed system. You can engage this, the dual feed. Excuse me. Best to engage your dual feed when you're doing this type of stitch. This is your stitch number here at the top. So this is your guidance for what how you should be setting up your hardware for your machine. Down the bottom here, it gives you positioning, which means on a straight stitch, where do you want your needle position to be? And you can have it at 00, which is in the middle, or you can make it go to the left or to the right. And you see here, when it's at the default setting, it's got a white background in this particular case. when I've moved it or changed it in any way, I'd have a highlight underneath it. Now this might be slightly different depending on the theme that you have set up. Like I've got this whitish grey screen. If you have a dark screen, it could be a little bit different. All right. So, but in this particular case, it's a green highlight. But you see you can see where I'm going with that there. You've also got your length, so you know that the stitch length going through the machine. This is the adjustment here. Thread tension. Now we have thread tension with a little toggle there. So this is automatic tension. You can adjust up or down depending on the combination that you're using. That'll change your top thread tension here. If you touch that toggle, it'll change your presser foot pressure, and it brings your presser foot pressure down to 0 or up to 8.5. So you have a big range that you can adjust your presser foot pressure. That will be particularly important if you're trying to do different weights of fabric, different quilting styles, that kind of thing, that you can adjust that presser foot pressure. All right. So if you're not sure about any of these particular things, you can go to the question mark and touch it. Okay, and if there's help available or a short description, it'll come up here on the machine. So it's a really cool way for you to learn your machine and what all these things mean. All right, if I was toggling that back to thread tension, come back, touch the question mark and hit it again, this would tell me what my thread tension is. All right, so if you're not sure about any of the symbols that you see and it's a little bit confusing, use your question mark, go and see what that is, and it'll tell you what they are. Don't be guessing or going back through the manual. You have some of this quick help here on board for you to get to know your machine a little bit better. And probably the first, when you take one of these home, which I'm hoping that many of you will want to take one of these home, the best thing you can do is allow yourself to play. The first little bit is just to turn the machine on, go through all these different things on the machine so you get a better understanding of what they are. Now sometimes you will have, like in this particular case, I've asked the question mark what this is all about. Here, this is create sequence, and sometimes it'll have a tab that you can touch and it'll take you to a section in the manual if it needs more explanation. All right, so then you can have a look in your manual. If you want to, leaf through the manual, you'll be able to see what that is. If not, at least you'll be able to find it in your manual, okay? And it'll tell you quite a bit about that particular item that you are concerned. So whenever I do this, you'll see, so I went here. This is an overview, left and right, so this is all in that search window. But up the top here, I have an arrow in this section here at the top. That will take me back to where I was. All right, so you can go back to where you were without having to, get confused about where you were. So if I went to stitches and I went into quilt, I can just touch those stitches. Everything changes up here. It even gives me an indication that I need to stabilize my fabric for this particular stitch. So there's lots of information on the screen that you're not having to guess anymore. And also what it comes up is it can check you out and make sure that you've got the right foot on. In this case, I don't. All right, so lots of fun things. You can see what's happening on the screen and get a clear view of what's happening there. If I want a clear view, I want to get rid of all this stuff here, this edit key down here with an arrow, I can just drop everything out of my line of sight, or if I want it back, I can just touch the little arrow to come back up again. All right, so this is really quite fun. I can move this menu over here, touching the top of it. I can slide it up to this side, okay? Whatever makes you feel happy. Otherwise, we can just leave it sit on that side. All right, so there is quite a few things in here that you can see. Now, remember before when I had the straight stitch on, it said tension. Now it says thread metering. That's because we've got a new feature in this machine called, it's like thread metering, it's called active stitch technology. And what it is, traditionally we had tension where there was just two pieces of metal that went together like a pair of cymbals, and your thread went down between it and it put pressure on your thread. And that happens with a straight stitch, and that's fine. Whenever we have a stitch that's not a straight stitch, thread metering will come into play. So it acts like tension, but it measures the thread and meters it out so that the machine can deliver the thread the correct length to make that stitch. Really quite exciting, because it doesn't put lots of pressure on your thread, but it's measuring it every single time. So even if I adjust my stitches to be shorter or wider or longer or whatever, the machine's brain is telling it exactly how much thread to measure to complete that stitch correctly. So it's quite exciting. So the active stitch technology is, when you see thread metering, that's what it is. And it starts with a number, the middle is 50. So basically they've put you halfway. So it goes down in increments of 5. All right, so now sometimes even with thread metering, you probably need to do some adjustments. I know when I'm using thread metering and active stitch technology, when I'm using metallic thread, I do adjust this down, and you just might find that this is a way to fine tune exactly how that thread is being delivered like tension onto your fabrics. Now, it is a lot easier on the thread as far as when it's running through the machine to be metered out. And in here, I don't know, you won't be able to see it, but there's two little rollers here that are measuring those particular items. So before when we put the foot down, the old two cymbal, and we've still got those cymbal tensions up here, they open up while you thread the machine, and then they close when the presser foot goes down. These little guys with the two rollers, they're basically one at the top, one at the bottom. They're away from their receptacle, and then when the foot goes down, they move across, and they have some pressure on the thread, but enough that it allows it to turn as it runs through and measure it. So it's quite effective, and it is really gives you a precise delivery of thread. So you can adjust that, which is really quite fun. Now, as far as, I'm going to go and select, there's some satin stitches in here, tapering stitches. So if I wanted to taper, say I wanted to do a 45-degree angle, it's going to distort that particular design so that I can make like a little square, and I can tell it I want a 45 at the beginning and a 45 at the end, or I can say I want at the beginning I want a 45 and at the end I want 120. It's going to make it look quite fun. You can do quite a lot of fun things with tapering. A lot of people, it's probably the most underutilized thing in our machines, but it is quite a bit of fun if you're doing lots of quilt labels or decorative home decorator items where you want to be able to turn a corner and have that stitch looking beautiful going on a mitered corner or something like that. So tapering is quite a lot of fun, something to explore when you get your machine home. Works really well with super like square stitches. Doesn't work on all stitches, but it'll certainly show you the ones that are available to do that. So if we go back to straight stitch. The next one in this menu is stuff that you've saved in your machine. This is like your file manager, and basically you can look at stuff when you're logged in to My Sewnet. At the moment, the machine doesn't have anything saved here because it's literally just out of the box. If I'd saved a stitch to my machine, say I had a blanket stitch that I adjusted, let's go and do that and I'll show you what I mean. So if I'm going into quilting, and I had this lovely little blanket stitch here. Oh, actually that's a crazy patch stitch. Let's see. Okay, there's a blanket stitch, and say I made that 2.0 by 2.0. Nice and easy one. So forget what I just said then. See the save? I'm saving it underneath my folder. Let's go, and we're not going to make a folder. We're going to make a file name. We're going to put blanket 2.0. Save. Right, so we adjust, go into this one that looks like an old floppy disk. For those of you who have not realised what this is, that is an old floppy disk symbol, all right, for save. So if I'm doing another stitch, like I said, I'm coming in and I'm doing a lot of other fun stitching and I want to get that stitch out, I go to File Manager, Stitches. I can go up the level, and there's my blanket 2.0, and just hold it, all right? I can put it in my folders. I put folders on my machine so I know exactly where they are. Otherwise, if I adjusted this again and I went 4 by 4, it's quite a big blanket stitch, save, and then I can go blanket, 4.0, okay, save. So now when I go back in to find my stitch, there's the 2.0, 4.0. If I can't really see that there, I can bring it down to see the whole name. So there's 2.0, 4.0, okay? So I'm going to get rid of that folder, yes I do, and just leave my blanket stitches there. All right, so it's really easy to find. It's really easy to delete stuff. If I don't want it, I can then just delete it and it's not taking up space on my machine, okay? But the stuff you use all the time, and if you're always adjusting your blanket stitch, then there's a good way to actually get it out. So you just touch and hold and it'll drop it up on the screen. Now, if in my vault, which is the online section of Creative 8, in my vault, because I've connected to Wi-Fi, if I have a stitch in here, I have to be able to see it, okay? I have to be able to see. Now, some of these are embroideries and some of these are stitches, okay? I've got 5 pages of stuff, obviously, because I've got too much in my my account online. But if there was a stitch there that I had saved, it goes up to the vault, and I could recall it here on this machine. There's quite a few in there, like I said. I've got too many things. But gives you an idea that I can save it in certain places and bring it back. But I need to have it in my vault part of my Creative 8. So you can explore and check out a Creative 8 and do all that at a later stage. Down the bottom we have the stitch repeat. So if I only wanted like 5 stitches of that blanket stitch, I could tell it that I only want to have 5 single stitch program, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it would only ever do 5. If I've got patchwork program, I could actually say that was a straight stitch and I was piecing lots of units. I could tell it that, where's my stitches? Okay, so I'm piecing and I've got lots of little 2-inch blocks. I could go into Stitch Repeat, use my patchwork program, and then once I've sewn my first one, I press reverse, and it will remember how many stitches before I get to the next one, and it could keep on going like that. So quite good for repetitious sewing, because the machine remembers the number of stitches that you did, and it's just another version of chain piecing, but this one, it just captures if you want to lock off at the beginning or lock off at the end, that kind of stuff, it will do that. Free motion, one touch into free motion should drop your feed dogs. All you have to do is remember to select whichever foot that you are going to be using. This one has the addition of the ruler foot setting. So you've got the dynamic spring foot, which is the 6D, the sensomatic foot, which is the 6A, which is the little one, the spring foot or the ruler foot. And you can then, if you're adjusting, if say you got the ruler foot, you can then adjust the height if you need to do some adjustments there. If it's the spring foot, it's like the old pogo style. If you sensomatic free motion, the little clear one, it allows you to adjust the height there for that particular foot. And the 6D is the sensomatic. Basically, it'll just run on its own. So you've got 4 options there, and specific height adjustments for either the sensomatic or the ruler foot. Okay. So to get out of free motion, we touch it, and next one full revolution means one full stitch of the machine will bring those feed dogs back up. But you heard it just clunk down there, so that's actually dropped the feed dogs when we selected a foot, and they are down. Okay. Tie-offs, we've got names for them now, so you can have at the beginning, at the end. We can have tie-offs when we cut the thread, or you can select all. It's really whatever you'd like. Sequence, create sequence. Basically, this is adding letters, numbers, stitches together to make a sequence. I'm not going to go through that right now, but basically it allows you to select stitches, letters, or stuff from your folders and makes it into a combination. So if in stitches, say I went to these and I want one of those, one of those, one of those, one of those, it would actually make a sequence. All right. If I don't like what I see, I can touch the bin and hold a long time, and it will get rid of everything. I can close out of there. So that's fun things you can save. You can sequence together so that you could do your own little tapes or little labels or ribbons. You could stitch on ribbons, those kinds of things with your sequences. And if you don't have enough stitches, like all these different stitches here, you could create your own under Stitch Creator. There's a section here where you can add stitches in. You could add decorative stitches or regular stitches into your own sequence of what you would like. And say, for example, I had one of those, one of those, one of those. Means I can't edit that stitch. There's only certain things that you can do. And that's how my stitch is going to look. If I said, yeah, I like that, or if I wanted to move that point, I could actually create where that sits. I could use my little arrows for, a more delicate movement. But you can see here, if I use the eye, it'll show me what that looks like. And if I said, okay, I want to get that section and I want to move it around, I can see what happens to that stitch. So you can make something quite unique. You can waste a lot of time on this one, just getting the stitch right. But there's some times where one stitch may not be what you want. Now this is a weird example of that, but this looks like an ECG. So if you were doing something with some kind of quilt for someone, or some kind of doctor, nurse, whatever, you could make a stitch that looked like an ECG and actually stitch it out and save it to your machine for later. Okay, so You can have a lot of fun with this. Letters work really well. Letters, stitches, like a combination, but you can move them and make them bigger or smaller depending on what you want to do. So that's quite fun. So you can just delete all when you're finished and you can get out of that. So lots of fun things to explore. If you have a stitch and it's not quite stitching correctly, when you have these bigger stitches up on the screen, say like this one, sometimes you may want to balance the stitch. Not very often we need to do that, but there is a way that you can do that. Very hard to explain without an example, but it basically lets you balance that stitch so it looks like it should on any combination of fabrics, or if it's a thicker fabric or a harder fabric or it's a lofty sort of thing. Sometimes the stitches get a little bit distorted, but we can actually balance it out using that stitch balance. As far as the screen, that's pretty much what's here. There's a few other options like mirror image, top and bottom, backwards and forwards. That gives you more of the information key here, just gives you the words on what these icons mean. If there's more than two, it would show you what they're all about. Down the bottom, you'll see when I selected these stitches, it gives you another little bit of information here. I don't know if you can see that, it says cross stitch. If I was selecting something else, it says antique hand embroidery. So they do give you a little bit more information, and these little triangles with the dots are areas where you can touch and hold and move it out so you can see more of them, of that menu at the same time. I can close that up, I can make it a full screen, or I can close it out and just get the partial screen. But if I want the full screen straight away, I can see a visualization of that particular stitch, see what it looks like, and then I can just close it up. And then I can just close the whole menu and I can see it again here on the screen. Along the top, we have settings. There's sewing, embroidery, and fine-tuning your laser, so that's in your setup. So these, for your sewing, it lets you select your twin needles. If you want to just trick the machine to think you've got a straight stitch plate on, that's where we can do that, and it'll limit what you can do. If you want your needle position to stop in the down position, you can select that here and it will always stop in down. If you want to adjust your presser foot pressure permanently, you can set that in here and it will do it. And your tie-offs, you can set this so that you don't have to keep setting it all the time within your sewing screen. So you can just set them here and it's done, all right? Embroidery, we have our embroidery settings here. It does allow us to use twin needles in embroidery as well for those interesting things. Embroidery presser foot height, if you're using one of those Sensomatics all the time, you can do that. One thing I won't get you to put in is you can select your hoops here, all right? And only your hoops will be selected. But I'd suggest leave your hoops. Allow yourself to see all the hoops that are available. If it bugs you, then you can go in and you can only, if you've got a collection of hoops, you can select which ones you have, and that's all that you will see on your screens, all right? But if you are looking to get a new hoop, you'll have to come back in here and select it again, or remove all of those hoops so you get to see your options. And it allows us, and we're going to keep this setting on, and it allows us to do a pre-flight check on our embroidery before we start into the sewing mode, and that's a really good thing to have on. The other thing in settings, we saw the fine tuning with the camera and laser. We can do that at any time just by going in here and it will give us that same screen again. Display and audio, where you saw before, I can set my language, I can set my time format to read 24-hour time or 12 hours. The time zone, we are going to set it for Brisbane, which I think we're not quite set yet, so we're going to go through. We've got to go through quite a few countries till we get to us because we're right down the bottom. Okay, so we're right down towards the bottom. So there's Perth time, Adelaide time, Brisbane. Okay, so wherever you are, set your time zone and your machine will actually change to its own settings, to your local settings. Timers, you can have your alarm on to tell you, you know, to remind you that you need to be up and walking around, or you need to be somewhere in 2 hours time or whatever. You can set that alarm. Stopwatch, it sort of tells you how long your project's taken. Not always a good thing. You can always show your timer at the top of the bar. Okay, so up here is your timer. Okay, so you can have that set so that you can look in at your timer a lot. I'm going to leave that on there. In here, it's basically your usage. Now, this one here is the actual sew time on the machine. So you can see I've had the machine on, but I haven't really sewn on it yet. And I can reset. This is just a temporary measure. Your machine takes a record in underneath your screen, in the service program of how many stitches you've actually done. This one you can reset for each project that you do if you want to, but you won't see the total stitch count of this machine. We see it in the service program, but this is a temporary one. So say a project, I was doing a quilt, for example, and it took me 36 to 48 hours of sew time. That's actually how many hours the machine was sewing that project, not sitting in, you know, like now. This isn't sew time, okay? I could reset it when I get to my next project. Same for embroidery. If I had an embroidery project, say I was doing the Kimberbell mistletoe mystery, and each month I was doing embroidery for that, I could keep that timer running until I was finished, or I could just do it month block by block or whatever, and then just press reset. It's just a little bit of information for you to sort of keep track of how long some of these things take for you. The auto power off, it will automatically go to auto power off if it's been inactive after 20 minutes. So even if you haven't, if you're touching your screen, it's still active. If you haven't touched your screen and you've left the machine and you've gone off cutting something or done something, machine's actually going to turn off after 20 minutes. I would leave that setting on. We see so many machines with on time of thousands of hours compared to sew time of about, you know, maybe 100 hours. All right, so let that do its thing. All you need to do is turn it back on again and you'll be back where you were. If you're in embroidery settings, you shouldn't be that far between changeover of threads or things like that. So it's a good thing to keep that at 20 minutes. If you're in a big project where you know that each section is going to be more than 20 minutes, you could turn that on, but please, I would recommend that you leave that 20 minutes there. Now let's see. Back. Personalize. Okay, this is where you can give your machine a name. Here, put your username in, the color themes, the bottom bar. If you don't want the text on, you can turn it off. I would leave it on. Canvas and workspace customization. I don't know what that means, but we'll have a look. And lock screen is on or off. That's basically when it goes into almost like screensaver mode. It'll almost be lock screen. And always show the time at the top of the bar. So let's have a look and go back to sewing. So in here, we're able to also, like all these run across the top. So we've got Wi-Fi, settings, help. We've got our timer now, we've got home. Home takes us back to that beginning screen where we can get into the user guide and the learning center. Up here, we've got Creative 8 short key there. And then if there was items, because we haven't gone and done its update yet, if there was a blog post there, it would be here. Here, we've got our user guide, and here, this one up here
is where we can go to embroidery mode. Okay, we can either go back from sewing to embroidery. We've got two ways we can do it. One is here and click that one, or if we're here, we click that one, and it will take us to embroidery mode. Now the screens look similar, but as you can see now, this one has got the sewing symbol, and here we've got different elements of the screen. Before I get into the elements of embroidery mode, I'm going to go through some of the accessories because that'll finish off the sewing side of this particular machine. So just going to put that little cover back on. All right, so in the sewing feet and in your feet that come with machine, we have a straight stitch plate, and I told you I would tell you where this would sit. So at the moment, they put it in a plastic bag, bubble wrap. But in here, there is a section with the little clips. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so it goes in there. Okay, it holds it. It stores, so it stores here in this box, and it'll slide on when you remove the embroidery module. Just remember where you put it, because in the Icon and Epic series it does the same, and we've had a few calls to say, I forget where we put the stitch plate, it didn't come. Well, if you put it there, it's stored beautifully and out of the way, and it's not going to get damaged. So that's a really good spot for it to be stored. Okay, and you can just release it by touching this button, and it'll release. I've got to do it with two hands. Okay, and it comes straight out. So if you change stitch plates, put whatever one's spare is in there. Okay. Now we pack up these accessories, so that one's going to go back into this little plastic bag. Buttonhole foot plugs in. Now it has like a USB port, sits at the back of the machine just behind the head here. That one, it plugs in and then it clips on and becomes automatic buttonhole. Okay. If you don't plug that in, it will work as a manual buttonhole, but you'll just need to tell the machine where you want to stop. Now we've got some special edition grey bobbin, these dark black bobbins here, or black or dark grey charcoal colour. They're limited edition that come with the machine. Okay, so you've got all of those. We've got, how many have we got here? 10. Okay, so there's 10 bobbins there. They're a J size bobbin, so if you've got they've got the light grey, purplish, light purple greyish ones, or the Monet ones, you'll be able to use them. You got your humper jumper or height compensation tool with the needle holder there, so always a good thing to have. We've got a couple of thread nets. We've got some spool caps. We've got 2 large, 2 felts, and they go on your spool on your machine like that to protect it. And you have another spool holder here, and you have another spool holder which goes in there. Okay, so this is new, and there's a little spot when you undo it, the little clip here, there's a little cover, it pops up. When you pop it in, you just push down and lock it into place, and it's going to sit there. Pretty cool. You got 3 holders. Then obviously screwdriver. There's a 6D foot with this machine, so that's your free motion or embroidery. I would recommend you always use this one for embroidery. If you are down the track getting your machine serviced, we would need to have this 6D foot with the machine for it. Seam guide sits in behind the ankle so that you can do some adjustment when you're quilting, or seam guides. But we also have the laser, so you know, this one, whilst it's great, now we've got a laser to help us guide the distances between those rows of stitching. We have a brush because we want to keep our bobbin area and everything clean, and a seam ripper because, well, it's not sewing without seam ripper, right? So we've got another one of them. We have 2 other size spool caps. This is probably the most used size, which is the small one. Okay, that's probably the one I use the most because I use it because it's smaller than the reels that I use. So Resent or Metler or one of those, the small reels, that's the great one. There's your medium size. Okay, so these 3 probably least amount of use. This one you probably put on your machine more than anything else if you use lots of Resent. I'm just going to move those aside because we've got feet next. Now, this would normally go into your accessory tray. This one here is your number 8, which is your maxi stitch foot. It's really wide compared to your others because it's designed to help move your fabric side to side when we're using things like the maxi lettering, the maxi stitches. It just has a little bit more area on the feed dogs so that it can move the fabric. So that's your number 8. Then you've got your OA, which is your regular flat sewing foot on here, all of your straight stitching and all those. You have your 1A, which has a little channel under it, great for narrow types of stitches, and you'll be guided by the machine which one to put on in sewing mode. You have a 1/4 inch foot, comes with the metal one. If you prefer a guide, you can buy one of those. The foot with the guide, you can buy clear ones with guides. We can help you with all of those, but that's your 1/4 inch foot. Your 2A foot is your decorative stitch foot. It has a deeper channel underneath it, so those decorative stitches have got somewhere to go. If you're trying to use your decorative stitches with this one, we saw that the machine is telling you, no, you've got the wrong foot on. Be guided by the machine, because if you don't give those stitches somewhere to go, in a decorative stitch they come across quite wide, they could get stuck under your OA foot. So always use the foot the machine basically is telling you to use. Okay. Then you've got your blind hem foot. Okay, so that little groove there helps you line up the fold of your blind hem. If you don't know how to do that, you may need to come and maybe have a class in one of our technique classes, and you'll be able to master that at store. Look for those on our website coming soon. We're actually putting a whole heap of new classes in there about techniques and tutorials and things like that, but you're lucky enough that you could bring up that blind hem tutorial in this machine and have a class at home on your machine. This is your manual buttonhole foot. So if you're old school and you want to do your own measurements of your buttonhole, that's the one you would choose. And this one is your zipper, nice and thin, great for bindings, great for pipings, all those kind of things. We get up really close. It does, all of these feet have a letter or a number, and you must be able to read that. Otherwise you've got the foot on back to front. All right, so if I can see the number 4, I don't know if you can see the number 4 in there. This is a section for your dual feed system to come in the back of it. Okay, that's why they look like a little crown at the back. They sit at the back of the machine, and then you can move this foot, whoops, side to side to get on either side of your zipper. All right, so nice and thin, one of the thinnest zipper feet of any machine on the market. And this one is your Sensormatic free motion foot. It's a little clear one. It basically touches down and hovers over the top of your embroidery design. So you can use it for free motion, or you can use it for embroidery. Okay, so here's embroidery, this one's embroidery. He's also free motion, he's also free motion. Okay, so you've got quite a selection of feet to do all those stitches on here. There are a couple of different techniques in stitches menu number 9, which use specialty feet like candle wicking and a few other ones that you will need specialty feet for those particular stitches, but it explains it all in the machine. All right, so that's an overview of your accessories, and of course, oh look, here's our auto power off. Then that basically gives us a warning that we're at 10 minutes of me not touching anything. Okay, so, and this one, I'm going to have to move the machine to put that in, but I will put it in. Let me put all these away so I don't lose any. Oh, and you've got needles, and you've got like an assortment pack there of universals, 70, 80, 90, 100 wing needle. Fantastic, because that'll give you some ideas of what to do with some, you know, heirloom type sewing, or, you know, those beautiful table linens and stuff. You'll be able to have fun with that. You've got 2 stretch needles, a 75 and a 90, a jeans needle, and an embroidery 90 needle. So they're all there that you can try stuff on your machine, which is great. So we can help you with needles if you like a technique. Now, let's pop it all back in. So all of this you would put in your accessory tray, and this one, like we said, best to go in the back little secret section at the back of your accessory tray. Okay, all right, let's pop them all aside. Right, I'm just moving this forward so I can show you how this goes in. This goes in here, like so. And you can turn the little paddle, I don't know if you can see that underneath. You can turn the paddle so that you can, sometimes this can move around. So whatever position you get it into, it's got to be comfortable for you. So basically it goes in, and it's sort of, you wiggle it until it fits in, and then I've got to be in sewing mode to do this. So then I can use my knee to lift my presser foot up or down, or just a little bit. Okay, so it saves me from taking my hands away from the piece of fabric, but I don't need to touch these buttons to put foot up, foot down. All right, most underutilized piece of equipment. Okay, so you can do that, or I can just move it, bring my next piece under my foot, and then release the lever with my knee. And if you are going to use your knee lifter, or your press foot lifter, this knee lift, I would use my foot control, my foot control on the floor. I'd use my left foot, and I can use this on my right leg. So it just makes it easier so that you're not having to change over. Okay, so that's how this works. Okay, don't just leave it as a piece of jewellery, sitting on the wall. I know I had mine up there for a long time, but I've started using these now, and they're quite fun to use, and it certainly makes things a lot faster than having to touch buttons here all the time. So now if we're in embroidery, so like again, we're going back here. In embroidery mode, now we've gone over to embroidery mode, and it always defaults to the largest hoop that we have with the machine. So up here is your hoop is 360 by 200. I would always go down here. Along the bottom you have quite a few different things. We've got create sequence, create shape, create applique, hoop options. When we're starting an embroidery, you sort of know what size hoop you need to be in, right? So you've got an idea. I would get the hoop out that I would like to use, then select it from this drop down menu. So before, when I said don't put your hoops in, this gives you a full list, especially if you've got a collection of hoops. Okay, this tells you all the hoops that are compatible with this machine. And as you can see, the largest hoop that we have with the machine is the Creative Deluxe hoop, which is the 360 by 200. We showed you that earlier. But this one is if you've got a Grand Dream hoop, you can use it on this model, okay? So if you've already got one of those hoops and you want to do a big European cushion, or you want to do big embroideries using that Grand Dream hoop, they're like split designs so that you can get really big designs in one hooping, then yes, you can use it with the Creative Expression 750. So that's really cool. But the biggest single hoop that we have, single-sided hoop, is the 360 by 200. So say, and the next one, you've got the Creative Elite hoop, which is the 260 by 200. We saw that in the box. I'm going to select that one right for now. And so it's selected here. Down here I can actually add a grid to my viewing space on the screen. So I've got lots of lines running across, and I can change colour of the background. Say I've got one of my great pink shirts that I normally wear. If I want that, I can go in and select the colour, and that's my pink colour. So I was embroidering on that. I can scan the hoop. So that's the technology, which is really fun, that this one has a scanner in there. I can then hoop, scan it, and do my design placement. I could also, if my app was connected, because my phone is filming, I can't really show you, but my app, I can connect my Creative 8 app to this machine, take a picture of the hoop, and it would help me with design placement as well. So we've got lots of technology in here. So I'm just going to go out of this hoop options just by touching hoop options. So you can see I've got a grid now. If you don't like that, you can come back in and turn it off. It basically gives you 10-inch grid, okay? If I only want it to be smaller, say 5. So there's your 5 grids. It's going to fill the whole hoop with 5 mil, okay? So depends how detailed you want to go. Very helpful when you're doing design, how do you say, endless designs and things like that. So the default is 10, so 10 millimeters. Put it back to where it was. Oh no, we can go bigger. How far can we go? This is interesting because up to 23, 24. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. It tells me. There we go. So the minimum is 5 millimeters. The maximum is 130. Let's have a look at what 130 says. Bingo. Gives me a center marker. If we go back into hoop options, hit it in the middle again. If we went to 100 millimeters, there we go. So you can see that you've got really a lot more adjustments here than just your basic machine, which is fabulous. And you can turn that grid off. Okay, so say I picked out my pink shirt and I said, okay, then I can see my fabric is pink. I can see what the design's going to look like on it. Okay, now this is particularly good when you've got coloured fabrics that you're using, because sometimes you might think that's going to look great on as an embroidery with all your colours on it, but imagine if I put a design in and let's see if I just find a little one. Okay, now he's a little bit big for what we wanted, But if I just did the colours of these birds, he's not going to be very, very great. So I could then choose what colours I needed to be to make him stand out a little bit more. Okay, so these are the colours that are already there. If we change colour, we can go into the thread library and you can choose whatever thread library you like, and we've got Robertson Anton Ray on there, which is great for us. And you can go through and just use your thread colours. So say I wanted to have a, I don't know, let's see, change that red to yellow, apply. And you can see what I'm changing has changed there to yellow. So if I see all my colours, that's what it's going to look like. So his feet are now defined against the pink. So you can have a lot of fun there. Now the one cool thing that is here about this particular one, if I highlight that design, you can see how it's much bigger it is. Let's see, I've got my resize function down here. I've got my rescale here, but my resize function. So what resize does is makes it so that I can see, get that design more than 20%. I can go and it's going to add or remove stitches depending if I increase it or decrease it. So I'm not limited to 20% as is normal with a rescale function. Okay, so I can save it. So now that design was too big for my hoop, it is now resized down to the right size. So I'm going to leave that design just sitting up here for now. I'm going to bring that same design in again. You can see how big it was. Okay. And if I try to use this one, this is my rescale. And if I try to bring it in, that's it. I'm limited to that far. I can't go in any further. So you can see how cool that resize function is. The difference between the two is, not only can I make it much bigger or much smaller, but it's the rescale, this one here of your basic rescaling, keeps the same amount of stitches. So regardless of how big or how small, I can go 20% is usually the maximum. It's either going to condense the stitches or stretch them out. And then sometimes when you've got a little bird like that, making it bigger, it's just going to stretch his feathers further apart, so it may not look great. So I'm going to ditch that. This guy here now has, or actually, it'll tell me a stitch count up here, 21,206. All right, remember that. Delete. If I brought the other design in, it's 31,588 stitches, the original design. So when I press resize, as soon as I press the tick, it's going to work its magic, and then it's going to tell me how many stitches it is, which is now back from 30 something to 17. Okay, so it does make a difference and I would always just use your resize for the reason that no matter what adjustment you make to your design, whether it's one in the machine or it's one that you've brought to the machine via USB or through Wi-Fi, it's going to resize it and look at the design as a whole and add stitches in or take stitches out so it doesn't look like it's battered or bruised. Okay, so and then from here I might get rid of that background because it's driving everybody nuts. Okay, so you can see a little bit better now the birdie. And then if I wanted to add text, they're all in different sizes, so you might have the same font but at different sizes, and then I can just type in tweet. I can make them So if I wanted to create shape, I could basically create a circle, or I could do one of those funny lines. And then my tweet now is sitting like that. I could go back and rotate it around. I think it's quite fun because I can basically change my rotation and make my design personalized. These are quite fun things that you can add to your built-in embroideries. Once you're happy with what you see, you just press tick and it becomes, you don't see the line, but you see the words. If I wanted to make that smaller, I still have the ability just to do that mini rescale. Some things, once you have made a new design, you may not be able to use resize, but you may be able to just do the 20%, okay? You just have to explore. So if you don't like something, you can go in and use your bin. And if it's only one you want to delete, you just tap it, hit the bin once, and away you go. So the other thing I can bring in is designs. So we've got designs is the flower. So you've got your built-in. You can search. If I put bird, okay, it will bring me all the ones that have been tagged with bird. So there's another little bird. Okay, again, use my resize key. I can resize him. I can rotate him and he's happy. I can look at the density as well, but that's all things we can talk about in a later video. When I'm happy, I just press a tick. Okay, if I want to add stitches from my sewing side, I can bring those in. If I want to add more text, I could go through the list and bring in whatever text. If I wanted the layering to be different, if I wanted to do that little bird first, I can drag him up and then it would do him first and then put the second layer of the group in. Previously, there's a lot of, in the days where layering wasn't available, we would have to, the designs, when we put the designs into the hoop to set up an embroidery, that's the sequence that they would be stitched out in. Now with the layering, we've got the option to change the layers around, and we can group some together. Say you've got the little bird and some text, you can group those and move them around to the different orders. We also have, like we saw before, the color. We just touch on the color. These are all your RA colors. Everyone in this machine is allocated a Robertson Anton rayon color. That's what RA means. These are your quick basic colors, but if you touch on a color, you can press change color and then either go to the thread library and then you can go through and select your color, or you can just type it in. Okay, and then you've got it. It's exactly what you've got in your hand. So if you've got your colors, you can go through each element and type in your color and be done. Okay, and just press apply when you've done. Either that, or you can just use some basic colors, or you can just scroll through the list. Okay, say you got a weird color, you don't know what the number is. If it's green, and you can use this sort of slider to see what this color ends up to be. All right, if you can get one that's pretty dang close, that's what you would use and apply that color, and it would come up as custom. Okay, so if you've lost the little sticker on the bottom of your Robertson Anton colour, but that's pretty close, you can use that. It's just an indication for you to know which colour is coming up next. All right. Let's see. Let's get out of this one. Now, this one's showing me that's what that colour is, okay, because I've still had it highlighted. If I go out, now I see the whole lot. So the ghosting, what we call ghosting, you can select a single colour and find where it's going to go, okay, so which is nice because sometimes it gets a bit confusing when you've got lots of colour changes. So if I wanted to see where that colour is, I just highlight it, and then you can sort of see here on the screen where that's going to go. And then if you untick it or unhighlight it, and it'll go back to normal. Now this one, if I can save this to the machine. If I put birds, save, okay. So now it's saved in the machine. If I want to send that, if I had more than one Wi-Fi enabled machine, say you had this one and you had the Icon 1 or Icon 2 or the Performance 950 that you wanted to send this design to, that's what this one is all about. So at the moment, because this is the only machine I have on, it's only seeing this one. But if I had the Epic 3 or if I had the Creative Icon 2 or one of those that are Wi-Fi enabled in my listing, I could send it to that machine. Quite fun. Okay, so I've got lots of machines. If I turn them on, you would have population of, at the moment, I've got the Epic 3, Icon 2, Sapphire 85, anyone that's Wi-Fi enabled or MySonet enabled, I'd be able to see them there, which is great because then that design is not in those machines. So you might want to stitch it out on one of the others, so it will send it across to them. As long as it's on your Creative 8 account and your machine is listed in your Creative 8, you're logged into it, it will send it to that. It won't send it to Mary Jane's or your other friend's machine because you would need to, they're not logged into your account. So, but it's pretty cool if you've got multiple machines and you want to send that design out, especially if you've got quilts, if you're running, because I know many of you have more than one machine that you use. If you're doing a big quilt or you're doing something where you've got multiple designs, it's always good if you have the machines available to you that you can send them across. All right, so that's what the paper plane is. It's to do with sending it wirelessly to another machine. So the others along the bottom here are just your flipping, duplicating, binning, movement. I can just do fine movements here or bring it to the middle. The others are, if I had this design outside the hoop and I got the red line, this one brings it just inside there. If I had, and if you're not quite sure, use that little help key, and this will basically return it to the original size. Okay, so say you mucked around with the size, if I want to return it to the original size, it can, provided you haven't used your, if you've just used this rescaling, it will do that. So in this one here, I've rescaled it. If I use that one, it brings it back to its original size. Yeah, resizing actually changed the embroidery design, so that bring it back to the original size doesn't always work for those, but it does if I've used the scale. Down the bottom we have create applique. So if you are doing basic shapes, you could create an applique using any one of these shapes. Like if you want to make a little pink ribbon, for example, basically that is now an applique. It has satin stitch around the outside. If I wanted to basically change the satin stitch to something a little bit more funky, it will now change. Okay, so it acts like an embroidery. So say I got rid of the bird. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. Now I've got a pink ribbon. It will do, when I go to my colours, this one does a stitch that allows me to do a placement line. The next colour allows me to tack down that line. And then the third colour in that series gives me the decorative stitch to go over the top. Okay, so there's a heap of shapes in there. If I went back to create applique, I can resize that. I could add another one. I could add a heart shape. Until I'm happy with what I see, I can still change that. I could add stitches to that. If I did this weird shape, and I could add stitches. You can see, I don't know if you can see them, they're actually adding stitches to use my sewing stitches, some of them, to make the outside border of my applique. I could put 50 there and there would be 50 stitches running around the outside of it. So they're a lot of fun. There is information in that in the manual. Okay, so but if you get your design to where you want it to be, the size you want it to be, it gives you that little indicator just there. Then you could add stitches, or you could even add baby embroidery designs. So I could put mini. You could add mini designs, and it would show me the mini designs that we have there. So there's a mini, and I could add okay, so we can add and remove, we can delete stuff, we can delete everything. Okay, and then go back and add, add that mini design again. And then there's one. If I wanted 60 of them, I could make a heart and basically get it to the point where they're not overlapping. So I have a little bit of space between them. And they're spacing it evenly all the way around, which is really, really good. So that's a bit of fun that you can play with. And it becomes then an embroidery. Okay, so the other one is, so create shape works exactly the same way, only you don't have stitch lines. So in applique you have a placement line and a tack down line, then an embroidery line. In create shape I would just have that little embroideries running around the outside. So that's pretty cool. All right, so that's now an embroidery design. So I'm going to delete everything. Now, if I just brought in, just for argument's sake, we want to go to embroidery mode. So we've set up our machine. The only thing I haven't done is put the 6D foot on, but I'm just going to show you what happens when we do bring in an embroidery. So let's just look at that little bird again. And we're going to change the hoop because it's asked for the big hoop. I'm going to select 260 by 200 like I did. And I'm just going to resize that down just so it fits in the hoop. Okay, so if everything's happy there, we can now go to, as long as we haven't got any red lines happening about the, being outside the hoop, I can position this where I sort of want it to go, and then I can do stitch out. And this then gives me the pre-flight check of, okay, have you set your machine up? So at the moment I've got the standard plate on, which is the zigzag plate. But Embroidery, they recommend that you use the single stitch that we saw before. Then we've got our hoop size, which I selected the 260 by 200. It's asking me that we're defaulting to use the 60 foot, so I would put that on. I've got colour block options here. I'm not going to merge any colours right now. I'm using my active stitch technologies, it should be always ticked. I do have an option to base around the design and based around the hoop, and I've got thread tie-offs, okay? So at the moment I'm automatic. I'm not doing any basting. I'm not doing any anything else. So I'm going to press apply. So what the machine will do is bring in your arm to then get me to load the hoop. Okay, and then it brings it in. So it won't start now until I actually put that hoop on, but you can see how the screen comes up, and it looks like it's got a really nice screen here at the bottom. It's telling us what percentage we've done so far, the stitch out progress. We're on colour 1 of 14. This is how many stitches in this colour, and this is how many in the whole design. It tells us that there's going to be around 10 minutes for the colour and 41 minutes for the whole design. We can do a corner check when the hoop is on to see where the corners of that design are, so that's all illustrated here. I still have the ability to adjust my tension, but as soon as the machine starts, this stitch total here is going to start, okay? It's going to start and give me a count, and then I can use this to either go backwards or forwards. Say I had a thread break or something like that, I could go back and use my plus or minus keys to go forward or back, whatever I needed to do. Information key, colour block count, stitch count, and remaining time. So if you're wondering what those were, it still has a little bit of information there. If I wanted to do my positioning, if I went to do centre position, it would tell me where the hoop was in the middle. Where the first stitch was going to be, it would move. I'd have my hoop on and my fabric in. If I wanted to do a trim position, it would bring the hoop away, so I could use, like I had to do applique or do something, and park would actually put the machine into the park position all the way over here. Just be aware to remove your hoop if you're going into the park position, because you may have an opportunity to hit the foot at any particular time. So, but for most part, current stitch position, bring it in, pop your hoop on, and I can precise position in here, but I definitely need the hoop on for that, because it's going to recognise exactly where that needs to be, and that's precise positioning, and now they call it exact positioning. Okay, so that's where we have the hoop on, and I can move that little design to exactly where I wanted it to be. We can cover that in another video, but it is really good, and it does give you some tutorials on that in the machine. So then I'd go out and go along and stitch it, and we would be great. If I want to come back to edit mode, I use that little arrow at the top there to bring me back to the embroidery edit screen. I know I'm in embroidery edit screen because this says stitch out. Okay. Okay. And I know I'm in the stitch out screen because it says here I'm in stitch out. Okay, and it's giving me the arrow here to go back. Going back means I'm going back to embroidery edit. Okay. So whenever you are changing across, make sure that your hoop is not on. All right. If I went to stitch out now and I pressed apply and went through all those pre-flight checks, and I said went to do that, and I went to press go, which is right here, it's going to tell me to attach the hoop. It won't start until you actually tell it to. It had the hoop on, it recognises the hoop, and away you go. So that's a little bit of an overview. If you want to see where the threads are, they're here. Okay, so if you want to see which one's next, then you can position that. So I can position this, I can make it narrower. I could keep that on the screen and just go bang, bang, bang. If the Stitch Out Progress screen, I could personalize any one of these to be up on the screen. That's my color block options. I could move that one and stick it down here. This personalization is great, but you can just leave that one sort of tagged out. And the good thing is with these is I can pan my screen, and this one's a little bit wide, but there's obviously a way to get that moved across. I can basically use these functions, like I can baste here if I missed it before. I can go into ghost mode, so it basically blanks out everything else that is not stitching right now. I can, if I take that off, I could do a single color, like if I'm just testing it, it will just do one color for me. So all those functions are there underneath your color block options menu. All right, so lots of fun things. I like to see my colors. Oh, sorry, I like to see my colors, so you just disengage that. And basically, you can leave this up if you want. It just shrinks everything here, and you can just see sort of how you're going. All right, so, but yeah, this is your first color, this is your second, this is your third, this is your fourth. So your colors are showing here. So you can close that out. So this will give you the sequence of where you're at right now. The first one is the green, so that's why that's coming up here with the little thread picture. So that's what you're on right now. So, and this will move across, should move across, I'm imagining. As you go through each one, it'll tell you what the next one is and the next one. So you can have them all lined up here in front of you. Okay, so everything else is here at the top with the embroidery, so nice and easy. Up here on here we have, you know, just your basic functions, which are reverse, stop, start, pause. Then you got needle up, down, foot down, scissors, tie off. This one is the reverse button key, and then you've got the fix, stop. So yeah, it's very simple and easy to use. Now, the one thing I did, that was pretty much what everything's happening with your screen. What I did want to check is the Wi-Fi. Okay, if you were looking to do the firmware using Wi-Fi, you'll get this little symbol come up here if it sees, once you're on Wi-Fi, if it sees an update. Okay, it'll look at, when you log in on Wi-Fi and you log into Creative 8, it then goes and checks the server online. It's only if you get this symbol come up, which we haven't got any of that right now, it says that you have a update available. So obviously this is the latest version because it's only brand new. If that was showing up here, it'd give you an option when you turn the machine on that you're able to download and install it. I would always download it first, let it do its download, and then once it's downloaded, it'll give you an option to install. Okay, so let it do the we won't be able to see it here, but when we get to that point, it'll give you options. One is download only, which you do that. Then once that's gone through and on your Wi-Fi and done that, then once it's finished downloading, then it'll say, do you want to now install that? And the machine will basically install it and restart. Okay. So that'll happen at some point. They like to just, if there's little things they want to tweak with the machine at different points, or if there's new hoops or accessories that they want to add capabilities to the machine, that's when they do the update. Usually, sometimes when they have new machines, I mean, this one's been out for a little while in America for a few months. We've got this is one of the first here in Australia to come in. If there's little things that the engineers think that could be a little bit better, they might do an update. But other than that, it'll be for new and exciting accessories if they've got any coming through, or things like that they could make the machine better. But that's your update information. So at the moment, we haven't seen one come through, and even we're on Creative 8, so it's all good to go. But if it did, just watch for that little symbol to come up, and it'll be at the very beginning when you turn the machine on. When it goes back and phones home and checks the server and checks your machine, and it tells you what version. If you're interested in knowing what version that you are on, I'm just going to get out of stitch out mode so I can put that embroidery back to where it should be. Machine information down here at the bottom, and it basically tells you the machine serial number, the build number, and the firmware. Okay, so the last firmware date is October the 16th, 2025, so fairly recently. So that is where we look to make sure that your machine is updated correctly, but now with Wi-Fi it makes it a hell of a lot easier to do it, because the machine does all the hard work for us. So that is a little bit of an overview of the Creative Expression 750. So all of you who had Creative Visions, Creative Sensations, Creative Sensation Pro, all that series of machines, it's around the same size. Okay, so we're just going to load it up with some, just a regular bobbin. Goes in the same way. Needle threader comes through. Like we said, it comes in on the left, in on the right, underneath and down. And threads, which is great. Okay, so for sewing, we've got two options, always with the foot control, but we also have the option to use our stop-start button. Now it does have a speed control little slider here on the side, and you can see when I touch that slider, the speed gets smaller or lower or higher. I haven't got the foot control. I'll put it back in the box at the beginning, so I'm just going to sew just a little bit with the stop-go button so that you can see how that works. So I can adjust speed. Yeah. Okay, so it has a nice, good sound. If basically when I touch the scissors while the machine is running, it will do a lock-off stitch for me. And that's all good. I can engage the dual feed and do the same thing again. If my tie-offs were on, that would tie off, but I haven't got them on right now. And it's nice to hear that beautiful, it's slow, a little bit slower than before, but that's not a bad thing because it keeps everything nice and calm. So nice stitching, nice sounding. The embroidery module and its movement sounded really good. We won't do any embroidery today, but hopefully that's given you a little bit of an overview. So if you're interested in having a closer look at this particular model, come in and see us. It's here on the floor at the store now, so you'll be able to get a bit of an overview. I think for its price point. It's got a great lot of features, including that hoop scanning and the laser positioning. You can take the double-sided hoop, so it is a lot of improvements over, say, if you've had a previous PFAFF embroidery machine, like we said, Vision, Creative Sensation Pro, all of those series. We're looking at same sort of size machine, can still take all your existing hoops, and can take the double-sided Grand Dream hoop as well. So if you've got all that gear, it will take the the magnetic, it will take all of the array of PFAFF hoops that are available that'll fit this size embroidery module. So 200 is your single largest width hoop. So the 360 by 200, as we said, supplied with the machine, along with the 260 by 200. So you've got the biggest hoop, single hoop that's available for this machine in the embroidery module case that comes with. So nice and easy to see, great improvement to the screen, feels very much like the Icon series, but just in a bit of a smaller package. But with this hoop scanning and laser, certainly makes a big difference. Wi-Fi capability, able to keep your machine updated, allows you to use Creative 8. So it's got a lot going for it in that particular thing. Plus the addition of the the artificial intelligence in there, making sure that you've got the right foot on for that particular process, just helping you along the way. And all of that massive tutorials that are inside, it's like having a sewing teacher right with you on the machine. You make it redundant. You'll just be able to do all of that. All those stitch techniques and sewing techniques are all built in. Well worth having a look at. Available now here at River City Sewing. Creative Expression 750, come and take a closer look. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and we look forward to showing you a little bit closer on this great machine in the future. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye for now.